What is going on, everybody? Steve Rakin here with Rakin Profit and Joji Davenport, the man, the myth, the legend, here live in the flesh. Joji actually just had a birthday a
Yep.
couple days ago, so we got the birthday boy here, and yeah, also some other big news which has happened in Joji's life. For the folks who don't know, not only did Joji have a birthday, but he has officially retired from working as a full-time chemistry teacher.
Yep.
So now Joji is full-time Amazon. He's sleeping, he's eating, he's drinking. It's all Amazon, man. So good to
Absolutely.
see you here. Joji's done over 300,000 in sales. I thought it was a half a million. I've been telling everybody you've done a half a million in sales and 100,000 profit, but I actually just found out. I've been lying to you guys. I'm sorry. My memory is going 300,000 in sales and
Revenue.
$100,000 in actual profit off of that 300 in revenue. So
Yep.
that's pretty impressive. So welcome everybody. Welcome Joji. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Steve. Yeah, as you mentioned, I turned the big 30. So I turned 30, and that happened to also be the last day of teaching. So I can say, I guess I retired from the 9 to 5 job when I was 30. And by retire, I'm not going to sit on the beach and do nothing. It's more, my wife and I are now financially independent. So we get to choose how to spend our time. And so my goal here is to lay the framework for a lot of people who I know are not really happy with the 9 to 5 job, and potentially can see themselves in the future, building a profitable online book arbitrage business, which can lead them to leave the 9 to 5 and then pursue things that they want to do. So, what I'm super excited about, Steve, is I've been able to, and my wife been able to buy back our time, which means I have more time to do this. Normally, I couldn't do this at 3 p.m. because it's a Monday and I'd be at school teaching. And I also play like an hour of pickleball before this. Normally, I can't do that. So, I get to choose to do the things that I want to do. And obviously, you guys will learn. I have a son, he's almost 2 years old. The goal is to spend more time with my son. When I was going to school, I basically would wake up, wouldn't see him in the morning, and wouldn't see him until like 5 p.m. And now I get to see him when he wakes up every morning. So we want to lay the framework for you guys to show you that it could be possible in the future that a little extra income can free up those opportunities. But Steve, as always, I'm just incredibly excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and let's do this.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, before we jump into things, there's a couple things I want to discuss. Number one, well, first, I want to shout everybody out who's here live right now. So if you are here watching live right now, there might be a little bit of a lag in the comments because usually we have like 20, 30, 40 comments popping in. Oh, we just got one. Okay. So there might be a minute lag with the comments, but we are live right now. We just had Ronnie come in saying, hey
Ronnie,
guys, thanks a ton. We also had a great comment from Feet and Gun saying, I'm addicted to the content. Feed me more. So let us know in the comments who is here live. Introduce yourself. Would love to know. Well, a couple things I'd like to know is where are you located in the country? I'm in Connecticut. Joji, you're in Cali, I believe.
Yeah, I'm in California, San Diego County. Yep.
And I want to know, how long have you guys or gals been selling books on Amazon for? And I want to know, how are you finding your books? Let me know. Are you sourcing your books from thrift stores? Are you sourcing from library sales? Are you sourcing from maybe Facebook Marketplace? Maybe you're doing eBay to Amazon. Maybe you're doing Amazon to Amazon. I want to know, how are you currently sourcing your books? And the second thing I wanted to mention is, you can see the background. It's the beach.
It's the beach.
The reason I've got the beach as the background is because what we're going to teach today, you theoretically could literally set up a little canopy or a little umbrella at the beach with your computer, which I don't advise. I feel like if you're going to go to the beach, go enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
But what we're going to teach, Joji, is how anybody here can literally source books from home, from the beach. All you need is a computer, a laptop, and an internet connection. And we're going to share with you how to literally find books that can make you $10 profit, $20 profit, $30 profit. I know you flipped books before that have done over $100 profit, Joji. Isn't that right?
Insane. Yep. I have purchased books for like $5 that have sold for like $200 before, which is kind of insane that that's even possible. But it is, I mean, obviously not every book flips like that. But yeah, this idea of you being able to source anywhere. Last summer, I was in Vietnam and I bought a bunch of books in Vietnam. I don't live in Vietnam, right? I just need an internet connection. And later on in the slides presentation, the background within a background, if you guys look at Steve's background, he's got the moon back there. And you could actually source books on the moon if you have Wi-Fi, which I'm sure these
Right.
astronauts, on the International Space Station have Wi-Fi. They have to connect back to Earth. So if I could teach some of them to source books, we could say way people sourcing books from space. Be
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, I was on a cruise last month. I was on Royal Caribbean. I took my mom on one of her first vacations. And I don't know, she hasn't been on a cruise in like 20, 30 years. And when I was there, let's just say I was having a couple too many drinks and I found myself sourcing.
Yeah.
And I
There
bought
you go.
it wasn't a book, but you can do this method for different products as well. But it was a DVD. I shared it in my Facebook group the other day. I paid, I think it was 130 and sold it for 279, something around. I
Ooh,
posted on Facebook.
nice.
Yeah. On a cruise. So yeah, we're going to be sharing some pretty cool stuff. It does take work. It does take
Yep.
capital. It does take some experience. This isn't some, drop shipping, plug and play, nonsense that is going to get you banned or something that's just a pie in the sky. Like, we've been doing this for years. I've been doing this
Yep.
method for full time over 3 years. I've been selling for over 10 years. How long have you been doing this method for, Joji?
My first book purchase was actually in 2016.
Yeah.
My first 80-way flip. So it's been around 8 years. And I wasn't super serious about it maybe until about 4 years ago. But I've been doing it for a long time. So I've made tons of mistakes and I've learned a lot from them.
Calvin says 3 years of business. Last year hit 50,000 in sales. I get my books from bulk orders online, local friends bookstores, secondhand shops, and estate garage sales. So this is going to be perfect for you, Calvin.
Yep.
Seriously, it doesn't matter if you guys are doing other things. You don't have to stop, but you can add this method that we're teaching on the side, or you can go crazy with it.
Absolutely.
No Carb Noodles says, just got back from a library sale, super long lines. Give me an online sale any day. I mostly use Bookmine. Awesome. Very cool. You got Romer the Roamer saying savages. Yeah, you guys give Romer the Roamer a follow. He's actually the founder of Go-To Lister, which is the fastest listing software in the world. It is proven in a laboratory. So good to see you here. We got David J, Southwest Colorado, been selling for over a year, sourcing from thrift stores, eBay, Facebook Marketplace. This is
Awesome.
great. A lot of really awesome people. We got Sarah saying Bookmine all the way. Gary from Vegas, awesome, selling on Amazon books for 8 years. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So I just want to shout everybody out. Let's get into the show, and I'll be in the comments interacting as well. But I want to make sure we bring the good stuff to you guys. So I will, when you're ready, let me know when you're ready to add your slides on stage.
I'm ready. Just tell me that you can see my screen.
Yep, I can see. Oh, not anymore. Okay, now I can. Okay, let me try it one more time.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
You can see my screen. How to make $100 per day flipping books on Amazon without leaving your house. You can see that?
Yep, I can see it. Do you want me to keep us in the corner, our pictures, or should I take us off the screen?
It doesn't matter to me as long as you don't think it obstructs too much. If you think it obstructs at any point in time, then feel free to remove it. But
okay,
it should be fine.
Okay, perfect. I'll leave us there. All right, let's get into the show. But before we do, smash that like button, guys. Show some love because I'm going to be bringing.
If you guys are excited, let's put a "let's go" exclamation point in the chat, please. Let's go exclamation point. Let's do this thing. How to make $100 a day flipping books on Amazon without leaving your house. I want to preface this by saying that, I had a 9-to-5 job. I was a high school teacher, and I had to make selling books on Amazon work for me because, at the end of the day, I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm a husband. I have an almost 2-year-old son. There's really limited time in the day that I could do this sort of side hustle. And so I needed to find a way to do it from home during really specific hours, really late at night when thrift stores and library sales are not open. So essentially what I'm getting into is the reason why I decided to start online book arbitrage. So online book arbitrage, or A2A, just means buying books on Amazon with the intention of reselling them on Amazon. And I know you're like, whoa, what the heck? How is that even possible? Well, there's over 100 million books listed on Amazon at any one time, and there's thousands and thousands of sellers like you all out there who go out to libraries, sales and thrift stores and list them on Amazon. And a lot of people don't really understand how to determine or value the intrinsic worth of a book. And what that means is, with these 100 million books on Amazon, they often can become, cheap or below their market value. And if you've got, a little bit of a savvy eye, and you could use Keepa and you can use Bookmine to find these undervalued books, buy them, and then resell them on Amazon. And that's kind of what I'm going to show you today. But the reason why online book arbitrage needed to work for me is that I needed to work from home. As I mentioned, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I already have a 9-to-5 job. There wasn't any time in the day, for me to go to a thrift store. So I needed to work from home. And that's a major pro, increased flexibility. you can literally source books 24/7 because Amazon is open 24 hours a day. It's not like Amazon closes between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. Like unlike a thrift store, which has to do that because they have employees. It's all automated on Amazon, so you can source books whenever you want. You can buy books at 3 a.m., 1 p.m. You don't have to commute anywhere. You don't need any gas. You don't need to wait in traffic. I mean, if you have a route where you have to go around to library sales and thrift stores, I mean, if you're hitting 5 Goodwills in your area, it might take you an hour in driving time just to get between all the places and get back home, let alone the maintenance on the car, the gas you have to pay, the risk of getting in a car accident, which is real. I mean, Steve, for some reason, has is a car magnet. I mean, he's got hit in the back by, I think, a semi truck. His someone also drove into his house, which is pretty crazy. So there's, there's extra safety, I guess. I mean, it's small, right? There's extra safety being at home, but the other thing is you have better inventory to choose from. If you go to a thrift store, you're limited by the books in the thrift store, which might be a couple thousand, two, three, 4,000. And if you're going in a route of 5 Goodwills, you might have the opportunity to look at upwards of 10 to 15,000 books. That's it. On Amazon, there's 100 million books listed, and so you have way better inventory to choose from, which also allows you to have a higher average selling price. One thing that I'm really going to argue is that you should, or at least this is just my opinion, you can disagree. You should really focus on doing less work for more profit, meaning selling fewer books, but for a higher margin, for a higher profit, because you can accomplish the same amount of money just selling less books. And to me, that's the sweet spot. If you have a prep center, which I do, I have Central Virginia Prep, an amazing prep center, or you can use Little Owl, which is what Steve uses, what Victor Gallegos uses. You don't even need to prep any of your books. You can just buy them on Amazon, send them to a prep center. The prep center will ship them to an Amazon warehouse for you. Essentially, they'll do everything you would do. Like they're going to open up the package just like you would. They're going to inspect the condition just like you would. They'll put a label on it. They'll list it just like you would. They'll ship it to an Amazon warehouse just like you would. So essentially, they'll do what you do faster and more efficiently, and you won't have a death pile here that's climbing up because you don't ever need to touch the book. And it's location independent. The background of this call, right? Like Steve said, is the beach because you could very easily source on the beach. You can source anywhere in the world as long as you have internet access to Amazon.com. You could even be sourcing on the moon if you really wanted to. And you've got incredible margins. I mean, if you look at traditional online arbitrage, you might be looking at 15 to 40% ROI, 40% being really good and really high for traditional online arbitrage. Traditional online arbitrage would be like selling, Nike shoes or selling beauty products, selling grocery items. Here, incredible margins. Like, Victor and I joke all the time where we're saying like, hey, 50% we say is like probably the base at what you should be thinking of and going higher than that. But in reality, 50% is amazing return on investment, especially considering all the other different types of businesses that you could choose outside of Amazon. And the thing is, it is scalable virtual assistants if you ever do want to go that route. But I'm a numbers guy, and let's take a look at the numbers. We said, how do you make $100 in profit per day? Well, I basically broke it down into, well, if you made $10 profit per book, you just need to sell 10 books every single day for 365 days out of the year. But obviously, if you could make more profit per book, then you would need fewer books. And while my 2023 average profit per book was $33, I would not expect anyone who is new to online book arbitrage to reach that because I've had many years of experience. I've made tons and tons of mistakes. I have, probably hundreds of thousands of keepographs that I've read over this time span. And so what I'm trying to say is that it's not fair to compare me to you at this point in time because I've got way more time on you, way more experience, way more failure. But last year, I'm just letting you know that that's actually my number. It was a little bit over $33 profit per book was my average, but really the sweet spot here is to try to get you guys, in a range that's in between the $10 to $20 profit per book, meaning the goal is for you to sell between 5 to 10 books per day. And that's how you could accomplish that $100 profit. Now, in order for you to kind of gauge where you're at, you need to know, well, how many books do you sell on average per day? And then what is your average profit per book? Okay. So what I love to do is compare this to the thrifty model. We've got good old Steve there teaching, somebody on his YouTube channel how to scan. And again, I'm not dogging scanning at all. I'm just letting you know that scanning at thrift stores and library sales could not work for me. I have a 9 to 5 job. I'm a husband and a father. Really, the only time that I had to do this business was between the hours of like 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning. All right, thrift stores and library sales are not open between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. So I need to make it work for me. But there are considerable pros to thrifting. But what I want to do is, okay, let's explain the thrifty model, right? Most thrifters are going to have an average selling price somewhere between like $15 and like $21, $22. So I took an average of right around 18 bucks. That's somebody who's going consistently to thrift stores. And after, what you pay for the book, after also Amazon fees, which are pretty significant, especially on very, low average selling price books, you're looking at a profit per book of right around probably $7 average. You would need to sell 14 books per day. But what you need to understand is that, more work and time is needed to reach that same goal of $100 profit per day because of the fact that you actually have to physically go somewhere. Like you actually have to get in your car, drive to Goodwill number two, Goodwill number two, Salvation Army, number one. Like you've got to do a whole route and you've got to come up with probably more than 14 books that you source in a day, but you need to sell 14 books per day to make that $100 profit. Now, you could also compare that to the bulk model. So this is our good friend John Mascarella, who used to be a bulk bookseller. Essentially, you have these what are called gaylords, or massive cardboard boxes of books that you get from sources probably like Goodwill. These large, companies that accept donations and that will sell you these gaylords. And for the bulk model, you're definitely gonna have a lower average selling price because it's all about volume. And so, you know, average selling price here probably between $11 and $14 for most bulk booksellers, on average making about $3.50 profit per book. You need to sell 29 books per day on average. But even more working times needed because you need employees. Like you also are going to need to have a warehouse, you're going to need to have a forklift. Like there's so many more things that you need. And if you compare those three things to just literally sitting at your desk, you can, more easily access the inventory that you need to look at, and you can do less work. Like it is very manageable for you to get to that 5 books per day. And that's what I'm calling the sweet spot. And that's what we're going to focus on today is how can we find 5 books every single day that would make us, reasonably, or I should say, give us a very high likelihood of selling the book for a $20 profit. How can we find 5 of those books per day so that we can then sell 5 books per day? Because if you sell 5 books per day at $20 profit, then you made $100 in that day. Now, what I will say is that, of course, you can go up and down, right? And it's not like every book that you buy is going to be, oh, it needs to be exactly $20 profit. Like it's $18 profit. That's not good. No, it's an average, right? So some books might be $10 profit per book. Some books might be, more higher. They might be at $33 profit per book. But the goal is, let's get there. Can we get to $20 profit per book? And can you sell 5 books a day? That's your goal. Now, how much would you need to spend? Because that's the next question. The one downside of online book arbitrage is that you do need capital to start it because you need to pay more for books. The goal is to sell books with a much higher average selling price. But what that means is, in order to acquire this better inventory, you're going to need to spend more for it. So no more, buying the book for 25 cents, 50 cents, a dollar, $2, because, let's face it, on Amazon, if you are a bulk bookseller, I mean, you've got to actually make a little money. Like you can't just sell a book for $2. You lose money, right? You need to obviously pay for shipping. And so probably the cheapest you can buy a book for on Amazon is right around $5. Like that's the absolute cheapest you can buy free shipping. But, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10. That's kind of the lower end of the tier. So the major con of this online book arbitrage is you are going to need to build capital and you do need money. But what I wanted to show you is that if we could get to selling 5 books per day at $20 profit per book, at these different ROI marks, this is how much you would need to be paying for each individual book. And you'll see on the right here, I have easier to harder, meaning that it becomes increasingly more difficult to find books with higher return on investment. It's actually very easy to find books with 50% ROI. Not too difficult to find 67%, not too difficult to find 100%. But as soon as you especially get up to 200% ROI, that's where it's becoming much more time intensive because you're going to be saying no to a lot of books and there's fewer of these, right? As we get to much higher ROIs, there's going to be fewer and fewer books. As you get to lower ROIs, there's going to be way more books. And so what I wanted to lay out is, think of this purchase price as what you would pay for a book on average, right? Again, we said the sweet spot of $20 profit per book. At 100% ROI, you need to spend $20 for a book, sell it for probably right around $57, $58 for, after Amazon fees and prep center fees for you to make about $20 profit per book. And on a daily spend, again, if you're buying those 5 books for $20, in this case, getting 100% ROI, then you would need to spend $100 a day. And that's not a little amount of money. That's actually a pretty decent amount of money. That comes out to about $3,000 spend per month. And what I will say is, as you get more experience with this, you could definitely go towards these lower ROIs, 50%, even lower than that once you become more experienced and you have more capital. Because, like I said, there's so much opportunity buying these books that are around 50% ROI or even lower than that. But this is kind of just a little bit of a framework for how that works. And again, we're going to focus at, can we spend right around $20 on average per book and make $20 per profit? So in your mind thinking, can we buy a book on Amazon for right around 20 and sell it for right under $60. That's the goal. So there I go. I mentioned that sweet spot. Let's see if we can spend up to $3,000 per month. And just a breakdown for what that average selling price will look like. Well, I have here, you would buy for 20. The goal you can see in SellerAmp, I actually crunched the numbers for this one particular book, which is a little bit over a pound. So most books are a little bit over a pound, like on average. You'd need to sell this particular book for 58.46 to make a $20 profit, 100% ROI. And one thing that I really want you to notice is one question people ask all the time is about long-term storage fees. Like, how long should you expect these books to sit? For me, it takes almost 4 months for my average book to sell. A lot of you go, wow, that's a long time. And, I would say, yeah, I mean, it's not a short period of time. 4 months is a pretty significant period of time. But what I have here with my fee setup is that the storage fees being 1 year. So if you could buy a book for $20 and sell it within 1 year and pay storage fees over that 1 year, so maybe you're paying 7 cents per month for storage fees after the third month, right? You would still make a $20 profit, even having kept it there for a year. So at the end of the day, even though I'm talking about this, hey, let's sell 5 books per day, I actually recommend to all the Bookmine subscribers and users, and anyone who does Amazon to Amazon flips, to actually go for 10 books a day. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that at 5 books per day at $20 profit, you're making $100 profit per day, which is actually a $36,000 annual income. And that's incredible, especially if that's in addition to your 9 to 5 income. But at the end of the day, it's actually, about double that for the average household income in the United States. So this is the US Census, and essentially real median income in 2022 is $74,000, the median income. So, 50% of people are below, 50% of people are above. And if you could sell 10 books a day, that's actually really where it could become life changing, where it could completely replace your income. That's a $73,000 annual income just selling 10 books a day at $20 profit. Okay. So, what we essentially want you to do is replace the 9 to 5. That's what I was able to do, and able to buy back my time. I can spend that time more with my son. I can play more pickleball. I can do these things a little bit earlier than I normally would. I can meet with my business partner earlier in the day. There's just so much more opportunity to being able to buy back your time. Our goal for you is to, though, is support your entire family, even if you're the only income. And that's where, me going back to, okay, if you guys could aim at buying 10 books, 10 quality books a day at $20 profit, you could get to that average household income. And potentially, if you have a spouse, you have a partner, they may not even need to work, or they can do, their own thing that gives them joy and gives them value, even if it's not necessarily monetized and making you guys money. I want you all to work from home and spend more time with loved ones. And I also want you to work wherever and whenever you want. A lot of people have dreams to travel the world. And while I don't necessarily have dreams to travel every which way into every country, it is very possible as long as you have internet connection to do this. And all that seems super glamorous. At the end of the day, it takes work, though. It's not easy. It does take time. Book flipping requires capital. Remember how we just went over this, how much you have to spend on a daily basis and a monthly basis to realistically expect these results. You should not expect this to happen overnight, but it completely is possible. Today, about 4 or 5 hours ago when I was making this presentation, I had already flipped 5 books that made over $200 profit. And these were all books that are bought on Amazon. One thing that you'll notice is that it only looks like, in this case, maybe 2 or 3 of these were textbooks, but a lot of these books are just year-round books. Victor Gallegos does a lot of seasonal books, and I do a little bit of seasonal books. Victor does way more seasonal books than I do. But at the end of the day, I mean, these are 5 books that I already sold today before 11 a.m. that had made me over $200 profit. And those were all books that were bought on Amazon. Of course, it wasn't like I bought them yesterday. Some of these I bought maybe 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. But it's possible. And I know you're asking, well, how exactly do you find these books, Joji? That's awesome. On my YouTube channel, I've got tons of strategies for doing this the free way. That's using Keepa sourcing strategies, Keepa product finder, Keepa deals, Keepa alerts. And Steve, if you could do me a huge favor, if you could just link, by the way, this presentation in the chat, because there's basically links to these videos if you want to watch them. But I give away all that free information on YouTube because my goal is to help you transition into becoming an online book arbitrage seller, and eventually to get to Bookmine, which is a software that my business partner Victor Gallegos and I made a little while ago. And the goal is to get you guys there. And so these are great ways for you guys to start finding these undervalued books on Amazon. It's, we don't have enough time to necessarily go into how we would find all of these books using these strategies because, I've extensively made YouTube videos, but they're there, and I've gotten tons of awesome feedback from people who use those. And maybe if anyone in the chat has used those, maybe they can actually vouch for me and say that, hey, they've actually found profitable books and that it works. But as I mentioned, the goal is to try to make things easier for people, because at the end of the day, Keep a Product Finder, Keep a Deals, Keep Alerts, while they are amazing in terms of all you need is to keep a subscription, with Keep a Product Finder, it's quite advanced. Like, you have to be very thoughtful with the way you use those filters. With Keep a Deals, you have to be incredibly fast to pick up those books. Not only that, there's tons of books that come up in your search results that are books that you don't want to look at. And with Keep Alerts, same thing. It's awesome to track books, and you will be able to pick up books with Keep Alerts when they hit your target prices. But at the end of the day, there's other people also doing that, and it becomes pretty difficult to snatch those books that are great deals. And so my business partner, Victor Gallegos, and I, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of him, but hopefully he's in the chat here somewhere. We came together and said, is there a way for us to make these things easier for people? Can we streamline taking 100 million books and only show people the books that we think are the most likely to be profitable? With all these resourcing strategies you see here, you could do that on your own. But the problem is you've got to go through tons and tons of duds. And what we wanted to do is, can we get rid of those duds, make it super simple for someone who wants to do this to find books? And so what we are going to do is, let's do some live sourcing. Let's actually see if this software works. Remember, our target is 100% ROI. $20 profit per book, 5 books for $100 a day. And remember, we don't have to be super stringent and super strict on it. It has to be exactly $20 profit per book, because remember, one other way to look at it is, if you went for $10 profit per book, you'd only need 10 to sell 10 books a day, right? So somewhere in that range here is what we're going to be looking for. But we want to do some live sourcing to actually go into Bookmine and see, is it possible to do this? You guys can look through, you guys can watch my screen, see how I would do it, how I'm trying to find these undervalued books, and go from there. So I know I've been talking for a long time here. Steve, is everyone still there? Is everyone still here?
Man, we got over 100 people here right now. And
that's awesome.
The question I have for everybody, I want to know, shall we do some live sourcing? If you want to be able to look over Joji's shoulder, and we'll show you literally how to do this right now, just comment down below, show me right now. Just say, show me. I want to know who wants to see Joji. Put all the pressure on Joji to do some sourcing, man.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
We got Victor in the house right now. Awesome.
Victor.
We got a comment saying, I've watched all of Joji's videos, which, by the way, you guys should follow him on YouTube at Joji Davenport. Just type that in, you'll find it. And I'll be sharing the links, the link to the slides at the end of the call for everybody. So you guys will be able to watch those videos he referenced. Oh, we got a bunch of people. Robin Clark saying, show me. Beth, Gary, Dale, Kevin, Gregory, Alexander. Awesome. All right. So we are going to dive in right now, and we will share with you exactly how to use this software. Now, by the way, just so everybody knows, if you're convinced after Joji shares with you how to use this, and you want to be able to find more books using this software, thanks to Joji and Victor, we partnered up, and we have a special little $15 discount code for anybody who wants to try this. They also have a 10-day free trial, and I've actually sweetened the deal as well. And I've thrown in 4 special bonuses, including, let me take myself off the screen, including 50 high profit book replens that you can sell on Amazon for huge profits from eBay and Amazon. That's bonus number 1. Bonus number 2, we have my virtual assistant playbook. So you can actually hire virtual assistants to do this for you. I've done over 700,000 in sales in the last year, and I have 2 VAs who source everything for me. Joji, I think you have one VA sourcing for you?
I have one sourcing VA, correct.
Yep. So if you want to learn how to hire somebody, how to train them up, how to get somebody to source, this is definitely a great little free bonus that I'm throwing in, again, as an affiliate. That's bonus number 2. Bonus number 3, if you scroll down to the next slide, is our Keepa crash course. So this is actually a 6-week course you guys will get instant access to. All you need to do is get a free trial. You don't even, if you get a free trial, we'll send this to you, that walks you through how to read Keepa charts, how to analyze deals, how to price items, how to know what's a good deal, what's a bad deal. The thing about Keepa will tell you the full story. And there's a lot of instances where a book may look very profitable, but it's actually a bad buy for a variety of reasons. We cover a lot of this in the Keep a Crash course. And then bonus number 4 is 30 profitable high school books. So if you caught the live stream I did a few weeks ago with Victor, he is the king. I don't think Joji would argue with this. He's the
Absolutely
king
not. The
of
king.
flipping high school books from Amazon to Amazon using Bookmine and Keep a Deals and all that stuff. I'm giving away 30 profitable high school books that Victor put together. So if you guys enjoy this live stream and you want to try it, check the link down below. It is an affiliate link, but hopefully I've sweetened the deal a little bit to make it
We did a
worthwhile for
lot.
you guys. So let's get into the live sourcing, and the pressure's on, Joji. The
Let's
clock
do
is
it.
ticking.
Let's put our money where the mouth is. Let's see if actually if Bookmine is able to produce some profits for us. So again, the goal is, can we sell like 5 books today, right, for $20 profit each? So essentially, that would mean is, can we find, using Bookmine, 5 books that we reasonably expect we can make $20 profit on? Okay. Now, again, I said shooting out like 100% ROI would say that, okay, well, let's see if we can shoot in that range for $20 for a purchase price of a book, all in shipping. So you'll see that on Bookmine, we have a used price slider at the top where you could select books in any price range. And as you guys use Bookmine, you'll find your sweet spot. Some people like to stay in the $5 to $15 range. Some people like to be in the 25 to 35 range. Some people only want to look at stuff over $50. You'll find your own little niche here. But what I'll say is, let's go like up to $25 on a book. We'll say anything between 1 and 25, because again, it's not like we need every book we buy to be $20 profit. It's like, can we on average find 5 books that together will give us about $20 profit per book? So maybe we find one book, we're like, oh, that's a nice, reasonable $15 profit. We find another book, I think we could probably make $25 profit. Can we average it out to get there? And what you'll see is that we have a last price update here on the right. Essentially, every single hour, what we're doing is we're looking through Amazon's 100 million books. We're bringing it down to a smaller subset of books that actually hold intrinsic value, meaning they actually have a use price that's held pretty steady for a long period of time and has sales rank drops, meaning it's a book that's actually selling. And believe it or not, it actually does shrink 100 million down to, a much smaller sample size from that. And from there, what we try to do is try to look at what is today's current price relative to maybe the last 90 or 180 days. The idea being here is like, oh, hey, this book 90 days ago, it was selling for $45 and today it's $15. Like, that's something that should be, an alarm. Like, let's go look at that book. And while not every one of those books is going to be a book that we'll end up buying, what we are doing is trying to put you in a spot where you've got the best books to look at and to go from there. Now, we do go a little bit further, and we'll get into this a little bit later on about the sellout meter and the supply meter, but there are some other ideas that go into building what's called a Bookmine score, which you can see every book here on the left has what's called a Bookmine score. It will go from here, from 4 up to 10. Technically, there are books with Bookmine scores of 3, 2, 1, and 0, but we don't show you those because there's not enough going for those books for us to think that there's a reasonable likelihood that they're profitable. In other words, one of the major value adds of Bookmine is getting rid of the junk. Like, get rid of the overwhelming majority of those 100 million books that you would never want to waste your time looking at. Let's look at the books that have enough characteristics that would give them a score above 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 10, increasingly getting better, meaning having better characteristics or qualities that mean it's much more likely that it could be profitable. So we will update this list every single hour. You can see it just updated here at 6 p.m. This would be Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So it just updated essentially 35 minutes ago. And it'll update here during this live call again. But essentially, what we're doing is looking at keep a snapshot here. And what I like to do is try to find a book that looks to be significantly, like its current price right now looks to be significantly below what that use price has been in the past, let's say 60, 90, 180 days, where we also see actually registered sales, where we see sales rank drops. Okay. So, for example, if we look at this first book here, this is a book that I would, on first impression, probably just pass. You can see that today's price is actually 1052, and you can actually see there's a price right here. And the reason why I would say I'd almost pass immediately is because from July through January, you can see that the used price is actually quite similar to what it was here. In other words, hey, you could have bought this book for $10 July, August, September, October, November, December. Is probably not a great deal, but knowing Victor Gallegos and knowing that a lot of books have seasonality, we could also see that, hey, for whatever reason, this book sold for a pretty significant price, up what looks to be in the 40s there in January. So what I would still recommend you do is actually just open up the book to see, is there seasonality? with this book. And actually, you'll see that, hey, this is a seasonal book, which is awesome. So we'll look to be maybe not a best, book to look at in the beginning. We do a little bit more analysis with Keepa, like Steve said, that shows us all of the book's history, all of the data. And you can see in January 2022, January 2023, and January 2024, this book, significantly went well above what it was selling for previously. So this is something that I would definitely look at and go, okay, well, you can see in January of 2024, we've got multiple sales rank drops in the mid 40 ranges. I would say if I had to count, maybe 5 or 6 there and another 5 or 6 there. So maybe about 10 or 15 total books that actually sold there. In the year before that as well, we're looking at a book that looks like it had sold for, in the mid 20s and then a couple sales there in the 50 range. And then in 2022, you had some sales in the $90 range. So again, from first impression, this looks like an actual textbook to us here. And it does look like there is also a newer edition of this. And tons of people always ask, hey, Joji, Victor, this new edition, does that mean I don't buy the old edition? Not necessarily. What I would do is look at the newer edition and look at how long it's been out, how well how well the older edition has performed, even despite this newer edition being out. So, we could take a look at this newer edition and see, well, how long has it been out? Well, it's been out for 3,400 days. And this older edition still, despite that, has done really well over the last 3 years. And not only that, a better sign that this book is probably going to do really well this upcoming January is today's used offer count, referencing the number of used sellers is at 15. Same day last year is at 26. We're about half of the current supply, about from a year ago. I think this is a book that could potentially do really well. Now, one thing that I will say about this is you've got to think about your capital. The major disadvantage of online book arbitrage is you need capital, you need money. And so you guys do have to think about, if I put money on the sideline and invest it in a book, how long will I reasonably expect to get my money back? So I want everyone in the chat right now, if I were to buy this book right now for $10, when would you reasonably expect to sell the book and get that money back? So Steve, I can't see the comments. Maybe you guys can tell me. I'm hoping you guys can see from the snapshot here when the book would sell. But Victor, Steve, you can tell me what people are saying here.
Yep, I'm keeping an eye on the comments. So, yeah, I'm gonna wait until somebody shares to see if folks are listening. But yeah, I mean, there's really one time of the year.
It's really one time of the year, right? And so, what I would say for a book like this, you're probably shooting in the $45 range come this January. And so, this is the first book on Bookmine, right? This is a book that you could buy for $10.52. This actually is the all-in use price with shipping. So it's not like 10.52 plus $3.99 shipping or 10.52 plus a bunch of money. It's 10.52 all in shipping. Also, if you go to eBay, you might be able to find it for a little bit cheaper as well. Looks like there's actually only one offer there for 10.31. So it looks like it's actually going to be slightly cheaper. But again, here's a book that, again, I reasonably think that I would be able to sell this book in January to February for $45, purchase it for 10.52 now, and make a $17 profit. But also remember, this book is going to sit for, I would say this is going to be about 7 months now. So you could use a slider on SellerAmp which is going to reduce the profit a little bit. Fun fact, holding your book at Amazon for a year is really not that expensive at all, especially when you think about what it would cost for you to store the book in an actual storage unit. It's actually super cheap. So as long as you're buying books that you reasonably think that you're going to sell within a year that are meeting your profit margins, that'd be good. So there we go, 150% ROI, $16 profit. For a book like this, I'd say probably just buy one copy, right? You don't know if it's actually, I'm saying this from your perspective. You don't know if this works because you've never done it yet. So in this case, buy one copy, send it in, and sell it for $40 to $45 in January. So really cool book there. Now, what I'd recommend again is just looking at the 1 year Keepa snapshot. And what I'm going to do is just continue to go down until I see something that looks really juicy. Because again, we are trying to look for that $20 profit per book. This one to me looks pretty interesting. So we're going to go and open this on Keepa. What I see is today's price is $19. So just under 20, which is kind of what our target buy cost was. And to me, it looks like it's getting up into that 50 range, maybe getting at the best part of the season in the mid 50s, which is right around that range where we would need to sell it to make ourselves that $20 profit. Now, what's interesting about this book here is it actually has a printed access card. If you don't know, printed access cards are like these supplemental materials that some college students will need. So I would say, something that you'll learn with these listings that have a printed access card on them, you should probably be a little bit more cautious, only because it's very likely that if you buy the book, it's not going to come with that. And um, uh, somebody who's buying your book, a student who's buying it might actually think that it's coming with that. And so you're likely to have higher returns. But let's say this book wasn't one that had a printed access card on it. Again, the purchase price would be 1920. You could see this last August, September, the used price got up into that mid 50 range. And you can see the buy box was up there in the mid 60s. Sales rank got incredibly low. This was definitely a book that was selling this January as well. You can see how that used offer count dove really low. You can see how the used prices got up in the 40s. So didn't perform as well as August, September did. But you can see again, this is another seasonal textbook that has done really well basically every January and August, September. So again, looking at this book's offer count today at 24 and looking at it the same day last year at the low 30s, we're looking at coming up in the next couple months here of a book that I think has the ability to do really well here. So in this case, again, let's just pretend it didn't have this access card. The purchase price on it would be 1921. So we can put that into this calculator and sell ramp. And for me, the target selling price would be, kind of at the shoulder price, which is not necessarily the peak, but right around maybe like the 55 to 58 range. So if we put like $58 in, there we go. We're actually looking at pretty much 100% ROI, $20 profit. So again, another book that just in the first few books that we looked at has the potential to do really well. Now we can keep going down and go further. We've got ourselves at another textbook that looks quite good here. We've got ourselves at a purchase price of $10. And you can see in the last August, September, again, how that used offer count, it did dive quite significantly, meaning a lot of people were selling this book. There's tons of people buying it, plenty of sales rank drops. The sales rank got much lower, plenty of sales rank drops in the 60s. So again, here's a book that all in shipping is $10 right now on Amazon that in the next couple months is probably going to perform well. Now, one thing that I'll caution you though on this book is right because it might look great is just also know that the offer count here is actually higher. It's at 35. This same day last year, going into that August September season, was at 18. So you are looking at significantly more sellers, which reasonably and logically should mean that the used prices, even in August, September, when there is demand, is probably not going to get quite as high. So I wouldn't, in this case, expect to be selling the book for 60. I would definitely expect that this book would do really well because you can see how this book did get down to an offer count about one to two when that last textbook season hit. But I was, expect to probably try to target $40 for a book like this. Now, again, we look at this book over its entire history, and you can see we've got tons of clustering of that sales rank in January and August, September. So another book that I would say here, definitely don't go too deep in. And that's something that Victor and Steve and I always recommend is
Yep.
there are so many books to buy on Amazon. There's really no reason in the beginning to buy more than one copy of any book. Because guys, remember, what's our target, Steve? Targets, let's buy 5 books and 5 books a day, right?
Yep.
$20 profit. That's all you need, but you just needed to be consistent, right? So
Yeah, be picky in the beginning. Like when you're new,
absolutely.
Be very picky. And I'm actually curious. There's a couple comments
Yep.
that came in the chat, and I want to ask one question personally. What percentage of books? Let's say someone's watching right now and they're newer to the whole like online arbitrage, like Amazon to Amazon method.
Yep.
Do you think that like what percentage of books should they be picking up on Bookmine that are going to flip like this week, this month, like within the next couple months versus what percentage should they be kind of targeting 3 to 4 months out? Like right now we're in June. So you have, that's like 2 to 3 months out, the August, September kind of rush. And then you have like the January, that's like 6 months out. Plus like for someone who's new, what should they be looking at? What types of books, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, the fastest return on your money is going to be this upcoming August, September textbook season because you've got about 2 months between now and when that's going to happen. And that's going to give you ample time to buy some books, have them shipped to a prep center, have those shipped to an Amazon FBA warehouse, and for them to be live at the perfect time. That's going to be the best return on your investment. Now, Bookmine, we have a filter that allows you up here under book type to look for college books specifically. And so I would say really targeting on college books right now. High school books, I would say would be great to target, although we are kind of already started in the high school textbook season, so it might be a little bit too late for you guys now. But that's probably going to be the quickest return on your investment. Now, of course, Bookmine finds plenty of all year round books, which are books that are not necessarily dependent on any particular time during the year. Like they'll sell year round. And for those books, you're just trying to pick them up when they become very undervalued, right? But what I would say for your target right now is if you are trying out Bookmine for the next 10 days, again, you can do it for free. Over the next 10 days, try to buy 4 or 5 textbooks, college textbooks that you reasonably think you can make $20 profit on, and send those all in and do that, over the next 10 days. And again, if you really, really want to make sure that this works, just before the 10th day, just cancel the subscription and just see what happens in 2 months. And you'll be like, oh, wow, a lot of these books that I bought, they actually end up selling and they actually made me some pretty good money. And as you build your confidence, then you can come back to Bookmine and you can go on from there. But fastest turning money, in my opinion, is going to be looking for textbook season, which is right around the corner. And that's kind of what we've been able to see with a lot of the books.
And what's
Now,
interesting,
yep,
sorry to cut you off, Joji, but I
no
want to
worries.
mention this. What's interesting is not only does Bookmine take the $100 million books and break it all and filter it down to, the top couple thousand books, 3,000, 2,000, depending on what filter you're using. But wait, what was I going to say?
Taking the 300 million books down, bringing them down to a smaller subset.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought there.
No worries.
It'll come back to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I
No worries.
blanked out.
No. So, I mean, going back to like what kind of books should you be picking up? Here's an example of a book that is $5.81 on Amazon right now. And you can just see from the 1 year Keep a Snapshot, its used price from July to March was $30. That was the cheapest you could have bought this book for if you were a customer. And there were plenty of sales rank drops, which tells us that this book was selling for $30 for the first like 8 months of the last year. And then today it's $5.81. Now, this is a book that doesn't look like it's a textbook because it doesn't look like what would be a stereotypical textbook like this does down here. So this is one of those like all year round books, Steve, that I was mentioning. Is like, well, let's take a look at what's going on with this book. And so interesting with this book, for whatever reason, in 2023, from May to January, it performed really well, selling in the 30s. Interestingly, from 2019 to 2023, it looks like it actually was a little cheaper. But before that, it was selling up in the 30s. Now, what I will say is that probably one of the reasons why this book is selling better in the most recent past is because the offer count is much lower than it historically is. You'll notice that when this book was hanging out in this like $5 range, which is what it's actually priced at right now, the offer count was double to triple what the offer count is now. And that makes sense, right? If there's more competition on the listing, if there are more sellers offering the book for sale, prices are going to be cheaper because there's just more competition
Yep.
for those people trying to sell the book. So in this case, I'd be okay buying this book because it is $5.81 all in shipping. You've got tons of historical data in the last year to suggest that it can sell up to 30. And I would bet you with the buy box price being that low, I would bet you that there's probably no prime offers on this listing in used condition. And let's see, okay, actually looks like it comes from Amazon Warehouse. So in that case, Amazon Warehouse would be a prime eligible offer. So that's why Amazon Prime warehouse deals is super low there. But if we look at all the other used prices, let's see what we got. Or let's actually see if there's any prime offers on this besides Amazon Warehouse. So you've got you got two at 19 and then you got one at 48. I would say 48 is definitely too high to target on a book like this, but you do have two prices at a lower price, probably because Amazon Warehouse just came on the listing at a super cheap price. But again, the target price for something like this would be in the 30s. So for something like this, the all-in price would be like $581. And for me, the target price on some of this would be like $29.99. So lower ROI or lower profit per book here.
Yeah.
Still 100% ROI. But again, remember, you get to decide what you want your niche to be, right? I went ahead and laid out the framework here in terms of your ROI percentage and how much you need to spend per book in order to get there. So, let's see, let's go back up to the number of books you'd have to sell per day, right? If you're looking at that $10 profit per book, which is going to be easier to achieve, right? You need 10 books that you need to sell every day. So you need to source more books. But again, it'd be a little bit easier to find those books. So still a deal that I would say is a good deal. Now, let's just keep scrolling down.
And can I mention that I finally regained my train of thought? I wanted to say Bookmine, it filters all the books down to 2,000 to 3,000, but then it updates every hour, which is really cool. So, if you see these 2,000 or 3,000 books, first of all, it's going to take forever to get through them, but every hour the actual database updates. Whereas, I don't want to shed negative light in any other Amazon softwares, but let's just be honest. A lot of them don't update, or they just show you a bunch of crap, overinflated prices. Because Joji and Victor, they could do that. They could show you 80,000 things right now that you could buy for $6 and flip for 72, but it doesn't really sell for 72.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah. There's Yeah, there's tons of books that have really inflated buy box prices, right? Which is kind of I think the model that a lot of other softwares use is exploit the prime gap, which is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to buy books below market value and then resell them for market value. Or in this case of like Victor, and in the case of a lot of the college and high school books here, or even the winter books, seasonal books, right? Buy them in the off season when there's way less demand, and then sell them when there's way more demand. And here's another example. Like here's a book. You can see today's price, all in shipping is 8, and you can see last July, August, September, this book was getting up into the 70, 80s, 90s with actual sales rank drops. And so again, this is something that has the potential. I mean, we have to look at the keep a graph more, right? This is just a snapshot. We're showing you a book that's likely to be profitable. You still have to do more digging than that, but this is a book that potentially could be a great book. So let's take a look at it. You can see in about for starting in late July to August, September, we've had a handful of sales rank drops above 80, some even in the $180 price range, which is kind of insane. You can see the previous year, which would have been at the same time, August, September, there's only a little bit of a bump, but still, you could have bought this book for as low as $6 to $7, and it did get up into the mid 20s. The years before that were actually really awesome. And so what's actually really interesting is, well, for whatever reason, this book just did really well this last year. And again, what is good about this book is the offer count today, 34. The offer count same day last year is at 31. So we're not too different in terms of how many offers on the listing. So this is definitely something that I would suggest looking at. Let's actually go to the Amazon listing. And by the way, one thing that I should make really clear, and Steve, Victor, and I do this so much that we forget, some of these basic things really matter. But please, 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 before you buy any textbook, do two things. Number one, make sure that you're actually eligible to sell it, right? There's nothing that would make it, nothing that'd be more sad than buying a book that you cannot sell. So make sure, please, 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 before you buy any book, make sure that you can actually sell it. If you have Seller Ramp, that's quite easy. There are some free Google Chrome web store Chrome extensions that will tell you that. You could also go into your Amazon Seller Central account and take the ASIN or the ISBN, and it'll tell you if you can sell or not. But please do that first thing. And the second thing, especially for any college book, especially if it's a book that sells a lot, please absolutely use the counterfeit uh, probability checker, which is run through Books Run. It's their own website where they, being a large buyback company, have seen books that are very likely to be counterfeit, where you can essentially put the ISBN or the ASIN of any book through, and it'll tell you what is the likelihood based upon what they've seen from crowdsourced information. So in this case, it says unlikely. I would say that's good enough for you to then move forward. But please,
100%.
please, please do those two things. Make sure you can sell the
Joe,
book. Make sure it's not counterfeit likely. Yeah.
I had someone reach out to me, a student, and she got a counterfeit claim on her
Yep.
account. And I said, send me the ASIN. And the first thing I did is I plugged it into Books Run Counterfeit Calculator, and it came back as highly likely. So
Highly likely.
right
Yep.
now, if you take a look on the screen, it says counterfeit likelihood unlikely. That's what you want to see. There's two other options, right? There's likely, and then there's very likely.
Yep.
If it says either one of those two that are going to be in red, likely or very likely, are you staying away from them?
Absolutely. There's no reason to. There's so many books that you can flip. There's no reason to get emotional about one book. And that's what Victor and I say is like, don't get emotional about it, right? Well, even though we're buying books and selling books, what we're really doing, Steve, is buying data and selling data. Like that's really what we're doing. So there's no reason to get emotional with it. There's plenty of fish in the sea for that analogy. There's plenty of books for you. So run for the hills. Likely, very likely, run for the hills. The good news is that Amazon has done a really good job of gating those very popular books,
Yes.
which means that in the case that you come across a book that looks great, it's likely, if it is counterfeit likely, that you can't even sell it anyways. But just make sure you do those two things. Make sure you can sell it. Make sure that it's not likely to be counterfeit. So I
And
hopefully that makes sense in the chat. But let's go back to this book and let's look at what we got here on the Amazon listing. So we're going to look to see if there's any prime offers first. Okay, so it looks like we actually have Rock City Books on this listing, and Rock City Books actually has a bunch of copies. So one thing that you guys will learn as you start going through multiple textbook seasons, as you start becoming a seasoned bookseller, is that there are certain things that are very hard for us to teach you all just in this one session. But one thing is making sure that before you buy the book, hey, like checking out like who's your competition, like how many prime sellers are there. Imagine if there were no prime sellers on this listing, Steve, and we had these copies this low. I'd be licking my chops. I'd be like, wow, this is going to be an amazing book. There's no competition right now. But look at the offers, look at if there are any prime offers, and these few offers that are lower don't really matter to me too much. It's this right here, this Rock City Books with 29 in stock. I don't think from my personal experience that this book is going to sell that often because there are, not too many sales rank drops. I can actually count them on my finger here. So what looked to be a great book is actually a book that I'm going to pass on because of that. And again, there are some things that we are limited with Bookmine. That's actually though what something Victor and I are going to try to do here in the future is trying to look at some of these listings when there are mega booksellers with tons of copies in stock to try to remove those so that you don't see them. Because what Victor and I are trying to do is get you as close to us buying the book for you as possible. And we've come a really far way. And hopefully there are some Bookmine members in the chat. You guys can, shout out Bookmine and give us your honest feedback down below. But that's our goal here. So we're gonna keep looking, see if we can't find anything else that catches my eye right off the bat, and we'll go from there. So what we already looked at was just, by the way, just one page, and we were looking at another page here. And for me, again, I'm looking for. I'm now going to try to find a book that necessarily isn't considered like a college book. Can we just find like an all year round book? And so this is exactly kind of what we're looking for. We see that this black line just dropped. The current use price is 13, and we can see this previous sales rank drop looks like it's in the mid 30s. It looks like we got plenty of sales in those mid 30s. So maybe not quite a book that's going to bring back $20 profit here, but a book that definitely I would consider is undervalued. Like you definitely see over the last year, this book has sold in the mid 30s, uh, pretty consistently, although infrequently. So a book that's undervalued, definitely worth flipping and that you can make some money on. Not going to quite make $20 profit per book. The margin isn't there, what you can buy it for versus what you could sell it for. But the idea of it is there. So let's just keep moving down, see if we can find something else that immediately catches my eye here. And we will, again, find tons of seasonal books here, which is great. Okay, let's look at. So here's an interesting book. This is actually probably going under a repricing war. It actually was in the mid 50s selling, and now it's at 22. So that actually is getting closer to that margin that we're looking at here. So we see plenty of sales rank drops in the 50s. You can actually see there's a period of time where the use price wasn't on the listing, and those are probably sells in new condition here. So in the mid 60s, and then recently the price of this book has gone down. So yeah, I mean this is a book that is actually the cheapest it's ever been and is really at a low offer count. So again, the margin here is not going to be a $20 profit for a book. This, if I were to guess, this is probably going to be like a $13 to $15 profit for a book like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at Bookmine telling us the all-in buy cost, and this would be $22.15. So $22.15, and the goal here would be to sell it for, right under that new price, which is actually looks like the buy box is at 70. I would say selling this for right around like 50 to 55. I'd say 55 is the goal. And so you can see, yeah, there you go. 75% ROI, $16 profit. And again, Steve and I and even Victor recommend that in the beginning, when you have less capital, to be really, really, really selective with the books you're coming across. Right. Even though I would buy this book because I think that I could sell this book for $50 to $55. I might not necessarily recommend it for somebody who's new or the first time off because there might be a better use of your money, especially if you have the time to be on Bookmine as it updates multiple times throughout the day. So I would consider this a great ROI. I mean, 75% ROI, return on investment on your money. For a book like this, it looks like it's selling once to twice per month. I mean, you'd expect to sell this within 6 months would be what I would be looking for there. So let's just keep going on, keep going in, and let's see what else we can find. We've got make your own cutting boards. This is interesting to me because the use prices go off the listing, which means that this book probably went out of stock. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one. By the way, this is a lot of these books only have Bookmine scores of 4. In a moment, I'll show you how you can find books that have higher Bookmine scores that are likely to be even better. But let's go and take a look at this book here. So one thing that I noticed is that starting in August, September, this offer count just started really taking a nosedive, and plenty of sales we have in the mid 20s. But you actually will see on the Keepa graph, this book was largely out of stock. It came in stock for $31. It went out of stock almost immediately in the sales rank drop, which means someone bought it. Somebody came in at $54.99 in December, right? Boom, sales rank dropped. It essentially was purchased right away. Then, a couple weeks later, someone came in at 55 and boom, it sold again. So this might even have a little bit of seasonality, especially even for like a winter sort of book. You can even see that, hey, this book sold for $55 in February. And now we're sitting at a price here of right around $10 all in shipping. So again, this is something that I would take a look at. And what I would be trying to establish, and this is what Victor always says, is establish a pattern. Is, you see a cluster of sales in August, September. You see the used offer count go to zero during that time. Is that something that we would see in the previous years? So what we could do is look at the previous August, September. So it looks like although we didn't have that happen August, September, we did. Looks like November, December, January is when we have a big decrease in offer count. And it looks like that's when the price there got up into the 40s. So maybe we're looking at a starting to get into November, December, January sort of seasonal book here. By the way, pro tip, something that you could do is go back in time when Amazon was on the listing for a much cheaper price and look at when was the sales rank here best. So if we kind of zoom in, you can actually see how the sales rank of this book gets best in November, December. So I would actually classify this as actually a winter book, and it just did really well this last winter. So let's go to the Amazon listing and see what we got here. Looks like we do have currently competition at $30 from a prime seller. Again, I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about competition on a book that is going to sell out. Like for a winter book, this largely was out of stock, meaning even though there might be some competition now, it's very, very likely that that competition will be gone because a customer will have bought it. And there's plenty of opportunity for there to have been more competition on this listing and still have done really well. Now, one thing that caught my eye here, I'm not sure if you caught it, Victor, or I keep calling you Victor, Steve. Steve, one thing that I'm seeing here that you might not be seeing is, do you see this little coupon right here, Steve?
Yes, I do.
So that, can you read it too? What does that say there?
30%, save 30% at checkout. That's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of times Goodwill, especially this Goodwill, Goodwill Retail Services, also a couple other Goodwills will run these insane discounts on books.
On eBay
And
too.
on eBay too. And actually the pro tip here is don't buy this book on Amazon. Actually go over to eBay, because what you'll notice is that this is 30% off, Steve, but this is 30% off just the purchase price, but not shipping.
Oh,
But this Goodwill, Steve, sells books on eBay with free shipping, which means you'd get 30% off of everything and the shipping. So let's actually go to lowest first here. So we've got 887 here. Notice that it's actually even cheaper here on eBay. So if we take a look,
let's
608
go.
plus 399 is going to be $10.07. That's the all-in buy-in price, right? 1007. That's
Uh-huh.
actually what Bookmine came up with, 1007, right? On
Mhm.
eBay, that same book from Goodwill is 887. So it's actually almost it's $1.50 cheaper. And what do you see up here, Steve?
I see the 30% off. You are dropping some golden nuggets, my friend.
Yes. So we're going 887 times 0.7. That's 70% of 887 or 30% off. We're looking at a buy cost of $6.21. There might even be 2 copies available right here because there's, see how this says Goodwill SR as well.
Oh,
And interestingly, this one's in good condition and they're not offering that 30% off. But in this case, you're looking at a Goodwill, which has a great feedback rating. People ask us all the time, Steve, do you buy books that are in acceptable condition? Well, in this case, this Goodwill, particular Goodwill, has a 98% feedback rating,
yeah.
which means they're often, and this is something that I learned from you way back in the day, Steve, is
Oh,
that
I
they're
know what you're
under
gonna say.
promising, over delivering, right? They're actually going to be probably sending you a book that has a 50-50 chance of being acceptable versus good, from my experience. So looking back at this keeper graph, again, the all-in buy cost, we could be at $6.21. What do I reasonably think we could sell this for? I think pretty reasonably when this August, September, October, November comes around, we're going to be selling this for $35. I would say pretty reasonably. And at $35, looking
Wow.
at a $15 profit, 250% ROI. And again, we actually have real data to suggest that when this book did come in stock, I mean, it was when there was only, one offer, it went out of stock at $54 a couple times. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could repeat that. In that case, that's what we call home run, right? That would be a book that would be amazing. But again, for me, I'd be saying targeting that $35, maybe up to $40 is kind of the goal, but a book that looked really great there. So any questions that you got coming through, Steve, before I kind of transition and show you some other ways to source here?
Not too much that I haven't already answered. So definitely keep going. And if anyone has any questions, drop a comment. If I missed it, please ask again, and I'll
Right.
definitely ask Joji in a few minutes.
Cool. So I hope everyone remembers this Bookmine score. We rate any book from basically 0 to 10. we're only on our Bookmine software going to show you books with a score of 4, because anything with a score of 3 or lower are going to be books that are not undervalued. They're going to be books that, sell in too infrequently. They're going to be books that are in, spiked in offer count. So we're only going to try to show you the best potential books. But on the top, you can actually filter by Bookmine score. And if you, let's say, filter from scores of 7 to 10, then we're only going to show you out of those 3,000 books, books that have a score of 7 to 10. And the reason for these books having a higher score is due to the fact that they, under the gold meter, probably have a great price, meaning today's price relative to recent historical sales is significantly lower. That actually positively weights that Bookmine score pretty significantly. And when we look at supply meter, which is just like generally telling us, well, how many people are selling the book now relative to the past, let's say 90 or 180 days, right? As long as that's in normal supply, or especially if it's in short supply, that's also going to help that score get higher, right? Because think about it, Steve. Like if you can find a book that's below, like its current price is below what it was selling for, but then also the offer count is extremely lower, like the number of, competition or the number of sales on the listing is also lower, like that's a book you should look at. It's a book that's cheaper than normally is, and there's fewer people selling it. Like that's a book that you should absolutely look at. So
100%.
if we also go up to 8 to 10, you'll actually see that the whole row highlights gold. And so essentially what we said is, hey, this is a book that we think you should absolutely look at. Now, going into like, let's say higher dollar flips, like this is an interesting one. You can actually see on the keeper graph, this has had in used condition plenty of sales up in the high 200s and then in the 250s, and you can see it just dropped from 245 down to 140. So like $100 drop. And so I know a lot of people are not going to be at that point in their business where they're able to spend that much money, but there's opportunity for books like this, especially once you build a capital long term. But I mean, factually, that's a great book. That's a book that normally sells in the 250 to the 290s. That's now $140. So I'm not going to go over that just because I know a lot of people are not there yet. But the goal is that eventually you could at least experiment with books like that. So, yeah, what we're showing here is a bunch of books that are going to meet that criteria. And again, this is going to be updated every hour. So one thing that I would recommend is, as this updates every hour, go through and just look at what we've shown as gold. Here's a great example. This book is 1876, the lowest it's ever been in the last year. You see plenty of sales rank drops when the used price is up in the 70s and even when it's getting into the 50s. So that would actually meet our guidelines for like a $20 profit, 100% ROI. So let's go and take a look at the listing. I mean, look at this. Steve, what has this book normally been selling for? 2017, 2018, 2019,
Oh,
2021,
wow.
2022, 23, 24. I mean, is there
70,
track
80
record?
bucks.
Is there track record of it selling for 70, 80 bucks?
I
Looks
mean, it's literally the proof is in the pudding right there. You can see real live data of what it's been selling for. The true intrinsic value of that book is solid.
Yeah. Current price right now is $18.76. Now, again, we can't just say that automatically buy this, right? As much as we like to say, just click buy it now from here, and it just automatically shows up at your prep center. You still have to go through the steps and okay, well, let's actually look at the book. Let's make sure that this is still a book we want to buy. What we know is that the likelihood of this potentially selling at that price is pretty high, but let's still look at what offers we got on the listing. So it looks like we've got, and this is actually really good news, we've got 3 offers, actually 2 offers competing for the lowest price, 2107, 2109. Then we've got 26, then it goes up to 59 and then 79. So we're looking at a total of 5 or 6 copies until it goes back up to intrinsic value. And a little tip here, notice that these are actually prime eligible sellers. So notice that has the prime check mark here. One thing that you don't want to do if you have a Prime subscription is to utilize your Prime subscription to get these shipped to you in 2 days. That's actually against TOS. What we recommend is actually having a second account that you can purchase this book under. That is a business account that is non-Prime eligible. Now, this is all looking great except for one thing here, Steve, and I'm not sure if you spot it, but I'm sure other people in the chat may have spotted it. What does it say for selling eligibility?
Oh, it says no. I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder why. I would doubt that it's highly likely to be counterfeit, but what we could do is we could go and see if it is or not. It says that it's unlikely, and potentially this is a book that maybe we would need to get ungated in. Maybe it's something that you could request for approval. So you could come if you are here on Seller Up, you could say, Seller Central. You could there's a button here, I forget where it's at, but there's a button here where you could try to, request approval, but I bet this is a book that we're probably not gonna be going to request approval on, but if this, let's say, were a book that you could sell, you could get engaged in, then this would be a book that I would say all day, right? You're buying for uh, $22, I think is what the lowest price was now. So $22, I would say aiming in the 75 range to 85 range would be the goal, and there you go, right? There's your ROI and there's your profit. So, while these books that have awesome Bookmine scores of 8 to 10 are what we consider uh, the gold, I would not sleep on books that are ranked between 4 and 7 because those are still books that have enough going for them that they're books that can do really well. Now, some other really cool features that I wanted to show you that you could use in terms of sourcing Bookmine is you could actually look for a specific book type. So, for example, if you want to source Christmas books, Christmas is coming up here in about 6 months. Christmas has happened every year since I've been alive. I'm pretty sure it's happened every since you've been alive, Steve. Right? Every year there's going to be Christmas books that do really well, and Bookmine is going to show you a lot of those books that perform really well during that period of time. That are books that you could potentially buy in the off season. So here's one great example. We have the Reader's Digest book here, and you can see, look at this, last November, December, wow, the sales rank got incredibly low here. You had the lowest use prices in the low 30s. You had the buy box price in the 30s and 40s. And now we're down here at, all in shipping, $9.89. And so this is a book that I think you could easily make $12 to $15 profit on. So, let's go ahead and take a look at SellRamp, and let's go ahead and put in those prices there to see what that might look like. So we've got ourselves a buy price of $9.89. And again, the proof is in the pudding with this book. If I expand all of the historical selling data, do you see any pattern here, Steve?
I mean, you see that spike every single year. That's probably, what is that? September, or is that January?
This is the Christmas book, right? So this is going to happen November, December every year.
Oh, okay. Got you. Got you. Sorry, I didn't see it was a Christmas book. Yeah. I mean, that is about the most obvious thing you can, that is so predictable. And the big thing I would be looking at, in my opinion, let me know if this is right. I know it's going to spike, but what I want to take a look at is the number of sellers, because if there's
Yep.
more sellers, it probably isn't going to spike as much
Mhm.
compared to if there's less sellers or it's consistent. The spike is going to probably be consistent with the past.
Absolutely. So what you can see is that the offer count here going into last season got up to 197, right? You can see that currently we're at 145. Last year we were at 90. So we are at significantly more current sellers on this listing. So what you would expect, just like with what Steve said there, is you would expect the prices to be a little bit lower, but I would absolutely expect that this book is still going to inflate in price. This is still going to be a book you're going to make money on. Now, obviously, the best time to have sold it would be like when you're in a time period, maybe back here when there were fewer people selling the book. But you can see how insane this book was, right? And there's hundreds of Christmas books that's one of the Christmas books that is probably easiest to like cement like the pattern in someone's brain, like of what Christmas books can do. But there's tons of Christmas books that go up in value like that. And again, a lot of those are books that you might not necessarily think are Christmas books. Like, for example, take a look at this book. Is this something that right off the bat you would think is a Christmas book here, Steve?
I don't know.
Marshall Phillips Christmas. I mean, look at this. So starting in December, look at this. I mean, it
Wow.
drove all the way down to basically a 0 offer count. The way that we know this isn't like an IP complaint is notice how the offer count doesn't go straight off a cliff,
Yeah.
right? So it's not a high pricing error. It's not
Staircase.
um, yeah, it's just a bunch of people buying the book. And you can see one other major um, giveaways. What do you notice happens to the sales rank then as well, Steve?
Yeah. So it,
Right.
it, it, it isn't as solidified. It's not as low, which you can tell it's slower selling, which makes sense. People aren't buying this book
Well,
after,
so I'm saying like so here in December when the offer count goes really low,
yep.
again, one indicator that it's not an IP complaint or it's not a high pricing error is notice how that sales rank was in like 180,000s, but then it just got down to the 30,000s
Gotcha.
and it's 16,000, 12,000. So my point is that the book just started selling incredibly right then, right? So there you go. Like there's a book that is not necessarily a stereotypical Christmas book, right? That you
Mhm.
would expect in the way that you would expect a book like, oh, the night before Christmas kind of a thing, right? So there are tons of books like that this one here, the Snowflake Snowflake Man as well, are books that would be hard to find on your own. Same thing here, 100 Snowflakes to Crochet. I mean, a lot of these books are things that are going to do quite well coming up.
Joji, I know people personally in my inner circle that I'm very close friends with. They sell all different types of products all year long, DVDs, electronics, board games. But guess what? During the year, they're just buying up all the Christmas books. They're buying up the Thanksgiving recipe books. They're buying up all these different seasonal books. And think of it this way. It's like they've got 10K sitting on the side. Some folks are, they've got a good amount of cash to deal with. And they're like, all right, maybe they're playing with 50, 60K a month. A lot of these bigger online arbitrage sellers, but they're like, I'm going to take 10K per year and I'm just going to literally buy a crap ton of books and sit on them. And some of them don't send it in. Some of them do send it in because the fees are so low. And then they just crush it throughout the year during these different seasons for 100, 200, 300% ROIs. Because in my business, Joji, I'm typically seeing, 40, 50% ROIs outside of books. So man, it's pretty exciting stuff seeing some of these charts on especially Christmas books.
Yeah. So, I mean, really versatile. We can even go into high school books. There are going to be some high school books that are probably still purchasable right now that you could get in on. But unfortunately, we are a little bit, and that's kind of why you did a live stream with Victor a couple weeks ago, is because that was like the optimal time to buy. That was like the tail end of a high school book, high school textbook. Well, I should say the tail end of when you'd want to be buying the high school textbooks. But we also have a high school textbooks that you could take a look at there. And some other just really creative ways that you can source with Bookmine. So we have, again, something called a supply meter. And notice that we've got anywhere from extremely short supply to extremely oversupply. So you could just say hey, just show me any book on Bookmine that is in short or extremely short supply. So what we can say is let's look at these two only, extremely short supply or short supply. And basically we're going to take all those books and we're going to show them to you. And unfortunately, we're not able to show you, let's say, the bottom keeper graph, which is offer count here. But one thing that I wanted to show you is oh, hey, look. So here's a book that last August, September is getting up in the 70s and 80s. I mean, buy boxing even in the 90s and even over 100 did really well January, February. But look at this, Steve. Notice how this use price is still quite low based upon relative sell, recent sales. But notice how this offer count has actually dipped quite significantly. It went from 20 down to 12. So literally decreased in half.
Wow.
At a time before the season when this book is going to sell is going to happen. That's a great sign that this book is probably going to do really well, and it happens to be super cheap. Now, again, you got to go through the motions. I think this might be a book that you might be restricted in, but you would go through the motions to make sure that that's actually, you'd confirm everything. Is this a book that we want to buy and so forth? But essentially, any book that we're looking at here is a book that is in low supply. So, this cultural anthropology book, it doesn't necessarily look like it's selling for a bunch of money. But again, what we're noticing is that, okay, it was selling in the 30s. You can see actually it went off, its offer count went to 0. So it went out of stock basically with the last sale looks like at $40 and then a couple of tail-end sales at 40. It's really cheap right now. But then also you can see how that offer counts are already starting to dive pretty significantly, which is a good sign that this book has potential. So the thing is, what you have to understand is oftentimes the prices of books come down to, well, what is the supply of the book? So having that metric there is really important because it's like an added bonus or an added benefit for that book. Same thing we can look at something like this. Again, just a Bookmine score of 4, where we can see, hey, again, we're seeing a pretty significant decrease. We were at right around 14. Now we're down to 8. And you can see that this book has been selling in the 70s. Now it's down here into the mid 40s. So again, maybe not a book that you'd be buying right now because we're trying to say be really selective with the books that you buy in the beginning because, you probably do have limited capital, but a book that I would buy with the capital I have, buy it for 45 bucks. I'd probably try to sell it for 85 to 90 and make about $20 profit on a book like this. It's got tons of sales. You can see over the last decade it's performed very well. Again, we'd have to make sure that, I can sell the book, make sure it's not counterfeit likely. And that's the part that we can't necessarily do for you at Bookmine. There's still that extra 10, 15% you got to do. What we're trying to do is put you in the best fishing location to fish books, to fish, right? I hope that makes sense.
Hey, I want to mention something. There was a comment saying Big shout out to Ryan. He's been engaging in the comments the whole time. So
Yeah.
big shout out to Ryan Resells Infinity. He says, but Amazon's all over that listing. But what you have to understand is Amazon is selling it as new. You're selling it as used. There's a new buy box and then there's a used buy box. So they're not really your competition. I mean, they're a ceiling in terms of, the overall highest price, because you're not going to want to sell used books for, new prices. But what are your thoughts on that, Joji?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you would prefer Amazon not to be on the listing because then the only option is to buy the book in used condition or from a new third party seller. So you're absolutely right in that there's added competition in terms of there's alternate options for somebody. But what you also have to understand is you got to think about logically. Like right now, think about this book. It's at $44. Would the logical human being want to pay $44 for this book or spend an extra $70 to buy it brand new? I would say most people are probably going to buy it in used condition even throughout the year when the book is used right around 70 to 80 bucks. I would say there's probably a large majority of people who are deciding to buy in used condition. And some data, again, we always want to back everything up, everything we say up with data. One way that you could actually prove that these books are being sold in used condition is you could go to the data tab here for this individual listing on Keepa. You can go to right next to product details, which says offers. And what we can do is we can unchart the condition of new. We could say, let's only look at the used offers, but let's look at the historical offers. And you know what? We'll go one step further. Let's just look at the prime offers and let's just look at the last year. Do we see any of those sellers go out of stock? And we go, oh wow, this person came in stock here in March and then they disappeared from the listing on May 31st. This person came on the listing here on May 18th. They disappeared 4 days later. This person came on the listing August 28th. They disappeared November 26th. These people are all in used condition. What do you think happened to those copies if they just disappeared from Amazon there, Steve?
Man, I think someone got paid.
I think someone got paid. I think they sold the book, right? So clearly there is in it again, if we uncheck Prime and let's say only look at FBM, I'm assuming that over that 365 days, we're probably going to find a bunch of like there's way more people going out of stock. So there's actual evidence to prove that this book is selling in used condition. So what I will say is think of Amazon when they are on the listing in terms of a ceiling price. They're going to limit how high you can sell the book for. There's no logical reason for me to price a used book for $120, for example, when Amazon's selling it brand new for 115. Why, Steve? Because who in the right mind would pay me $120 for a used book when they can buy it for 115 brand new? But what I can tell you is that there are people out there that are bargain hunters, that are thrifters, that are willing to save 20, 30, 15, 10, 20, 30 bucks to buy a used copy rather than buy brand new because let's be honest, a lot of these people are students and they don't really care about the condition. They just need the book for school. They're probably not even going to open it. They're probably just needing it for school. So,
Yep.
anyways, were you going to say something?
I was also going to say, you can actually, like, say, for example, Amazon Warehouse is on the listing with a used copy. One thing you can do if you want to show them, you can click on the sales page and you can go into the buy box used statistics.
Oh,
And so by hitting data, buy box used statistics, and you can actually take a look and see what the buy box has been rotating at. And if you take a look where it says, you see those check marks, those are FBA sellers. And one thing I like to do, it's a little tough on book listings with a million sellers, but you can actually take a look and see who's still on the listing. So maybe
yep,
there's only 3 people on the listing, but you see 40 people won the buy box. That means they pretty much probably sold at that price for the most part. It's just, obviously some of them could be inflated, but you can look at the price and then you can look at the seller and you can look at what they've been winning the buy box for, which will give you a good idea of the value as well.
absolutely. Buy box use statistics. There's so much data that Keeper provides you, right? And so again, it becomes quite complicated and you could get an analysis paralysis, which is why we try to simplify with Bookmine. We're trying to make the sourcing part as easy as possible. Again, there's certain checks that you're still going to need to do, but the goal is to get it to a point where this is the analogy I always give. Like Victor and I, our goal is like, hey, we're trying to instead of you guys just going out into the ocean and just fishing wherever you want with no idea where you're going, we're trying to take you to a place where we know there's big fish. We're like, you know what? We're gonna take you to a place where there's a bunch of fish. If you can learn to do some basic things, like if you can learn to check, counterfeit likelihood, if you can learn to check whether or not you can sell the book, if you can, read, have basic keeper reading skills. Similarly, like if you could on this boat trip learn how to actually cast, if you can learn how to tie your line, if you can learn, how to take a hook out of a fish's mouth, like if you can learn those basic skills, like you're gonna catch fish, like you're going to get awesome books. And again, this gets updated every hour. And so there's tons of opportunity because every hour, I mean, every minute, there's books on Amazon that are becoming undervalued for a variety of reasons. And we want to share this with you because, Victor and I are both financially independent, and we just do this because it's fun, but we also want to help people get there because we know how fun it is to have gotten to the other side. I'm lucky to have gotten to the other side now, whereas Victor's been there for quite a while now. But the opportunity that it gives you is awesome because I can come in here again at 10:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning and I can find awesome books. And I'm not, trying to sit here and say that every book that pops up here is a book that you should buy. But what I'm saying is you're putting yourself in a great place to find awesome books. So as long as you can do a little bit of digging, you're gonna find amazing books that you can
But
pick up.
dude, like you only need 5 to 10 books to like
Yeah.
make this a significant income, and I would
Yeah.
say start slow in the beginning, just like, the chart says, $10 profit per book, you need 10 per day to kind of hit that target. And then, it varies based on the profit, but start with a goal of just buying one book per day that makes, $10 profit, and then two, and then three. Take it slow.
Yeah.
Anytime you start something new, even if you've got experience selling books, maybe you're used to buying books at Goodwill for $1. Switching to this model, it's different. You're spending more money. You've really got to dive into analyzing deals. You have more capital on the line. Some of the books might be sitting for a little bit longer, depending on, what you're targeting, high school, college, or if it's just an all season book, but take it very slow. But there's a lot of opportunity here. And you might be thinking, well, oh man, they're sharing it with the world. Guys, there's 100 million books on Amazon, and every hour they're updating it with 3,000 new books. There's millions and millions of books, and this isn't something new. I hate to break it to anybody watching. This isn't some like new, hot, shiny object like opportunity. People have been doing this for like a decade.
Yeah, it's not new at all. I learned it from people as well. I've obviously kind of created certain ways that and so have Victor, right? We've been creative with the ways that we found our own niche. But this is not new by any means. People have been doing it for a long time and making good money for the reason that books have insane ROI.
but
50
what
50% ROI is pretty crazy.
but what is new is
Is
Bookmine.
Bookmine. Yeah.
A lot of people in the past, just to give a history, like, because people have been doing this for a while, a lot of times people would quit in the past. And the reason they would quit is not that books don't sell. Books obviously sell. I've sold thousands. Joji has, Victor has. I'm sure a ton of people in the comments are selling books. But what's unique about this is Bookmine is actually helping you to find books that you can buy low and sell at its true intrinsic value. Whereas what other softwares and what other people would do, which literally creates people who end up quitting because they lose money, is they buy books low, but then try to sell it at some high, overly inflated price, right? So they actually might overpay for books
Yeah.
where they can't really sell it for the true intrinsic value. Like they pay 20, the book's really worth 30, but fill in the blank name of a software is telling you could sell it for 70. So, that's the whole key to this. Learn how to read Keepa charts. Take it very slow. You want to buy low and sell it at its true value. You don't want to overpay and then try to sell it for some pie in the sky price. That's what I'll
Absolutely.
kind of leave it at.
And just one last book, this creepy book, man, this is an incredible book that we just found. So this has actually been here for a while on the first page. Also, it's this Bookmine score of 5, and that's why I mean don't sleep on these Bookmine scores of 5. As you can see, today's price is actually $20, and you can see the most recent sales have been in the 40s over the last year. But what got me incredibly excited about this book was that when I expanded its entire historical selling data, you can see that for a good period of 2020, 2021, 2022, you have sales rank drops when the use price is $90 and higher, which means that this is a book that is what I would consider a winner, right? I mean, this is something that if you actually go to the listing, you've got one prime slot of 43, which I would argue is maybe slightly below intrinsic value. So definitely a book that I would absolutely expect to sell out. Then you've got a couple offers right at 20, and then it goes up to 28, and then back up to that 45, $50 range, which is considered this is what I would consider more like a 59.99, which I would consider like more spot on with intrinsic value for a book like this, especially as a prime seller. So here's a book that you'd be buying for 1952, and this is getting close to meeting our standards where you sell this for like 58, or in that case 59.99 is that seller, and that's your $20 profit. So there you go. There's your 100% ROI. That's like almost the exact metrics there. So this is a book I would absolutely buy both of these copies right here, these two. So if you're here in the chat, make sure you go buy those two, and then tell me how you made 20 bucks in a few months because that's an amazing book.
Let's
Uh,
go.
Especially considering that this has plenty of past historical sales data suggesting that it could sell upwards of 90 or more. So there's even upward trajectory in a book like this. Just an amazing book overall. So we wanted to go ahead and talk about again those bonuses. So if you guys did use Steve's link, and Steve, would you mind in the chat putting your link down below? We wanted to
Sure.
sweeten the deal for you guys. So essentially, you can trial Bookmine out for free for 10 days. And before that 10 days is up, you can cancel and you can get all your money back. And you can save if you use coupon code Steve at checkout, you can basically get $15 off every month if you do that.
Dude, they're not even going to get their money back because there's no money that they're giving if you get a free
Yeah,
10-day trial. So
exactly.
Joji will pay you an extra.
Oh, I'll pay you an extra $15, right? Okay, unfortunately, I won't do that, but we still have running costs. We got to make sure that we can keep Bookmine up and support it. One other thing that I'd say is make sure you guys check out the Bookmine YouTube channel because I'm telling you the Bookmine YouTube channel is actually awesome. And let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, so let's actually go over. We got 10 people on the Bookmine channel watching this, which is awesome.
Let's go.
We actually just added our first coach. We didn't even tell you about that, Steve, but we added our first coach, Chet, which is awesome. And he's having his first live call today, actually, which is awesome. But we have what I would consider amazing content that's absolutely free. So even if you're a bookseller and you're not going to use Bookmine, we want Bookmine to be the hub, the central location for the best online book arbitrage information that's all free. So even if you don't use Bookmine, you're always going to be coming to Bookmine because you're like, okay, Bookmine YouTube channel gives away all the free sauce, gives away all the content you never need. We have a playlist also called the Bookmine Academy, which has 19 videos in it. It's all about getting started with Keepa as well. We've got success stories. You can learn how Sarah sold $75,000 last year. So we've got incredible content there. So make sure you check that out. Even if you're not going to sign up for Bookmine, it's just a great place to get Victor and I our take on books. And it's a channel that's growing quite quickly. And I think we'll grow pretty quickly and keep going. But anyways, you've got a bunch of bonuses. You got the 50 high profit book read plans that you can get from Steve. Again, if you use the link today, you've got the bonus number 2, leveraging virtual assistants. That might be a little bit later on, especially if you have less capital now, but something you should be thinking about later on long term, 2, 3, 4 years, especially if you start, it could be sooner. It really depends on, how much capital you have and how much you take this to heart and commit to it. Bonus number 3 is, keeping, crushing the Keepa crash course. So that's actually from, both Steve and I. And then lastly, an incredible list of 30 profitable high school books, which is insanely profitable. I mean, insanely valuable that, Victor was very generous to give away. So you can get all of those if you use basically that link. And hopefully, Steve, you put this link in the chat. But we're really excited to support you. And even though Bookmine is a software that we would, selfishly love you to use, because you're going to find great books, we ultimately just want to support you guys to becoming booksellers. Because I don't know about you, Steve. Actually, I do know about you. You don't like driving to thrift stores anywhere. You don't like going to library sales. It's just
it's no fun anymore. There's a million competitors there.
Yeah, there's something to say for I feel like we've done our time, right? We put the time in, we moved on from that. And again, I'm not trying to discredit or say that anyone who does that is bad. It's an amazing way to build capital. All I'm saying is that we want to build something better. We want to give you guys the opportunity to be able to source from home, to be able to control your own time, to source whenever you want, wherever you want.
Yeah.
And while again, you don't need Bookmine to get there, Bookmine is going to be a tool, another tool that you can use that can make it a lot easier. So if you guys are interested, feel free to try that out. And
I love
again,
it.
join the Bookmine YouTube channel, join the Bookmine Facebook community group if you do sign up for a free trial and see, awesome people who are making money doing this. So really cool.
Well, awesome. There's no excuse, Joji, for anybody to say, hey, I couldn't find any books at the thrift store or the library sale. Obviously, there's a learning curve to this method. Yep. I think we've been very transparent about that.
Yep.
But there's literally tens of thousands of opportunities out there. So if you're a thrifter hitting the library sales, local pickups, keep doing it. Build your cash, build your capital. There's no better margins than thrifting, but start taking some of that income and slowly but surely invest it in ways that you can scale your time. Because I think a lot of the biggest reason a lot of folks are doing Amazon outside of the income, what they really want is freedom, right? To spend with their family, with their kids to travel, so on and so forth. And that's why I switched my business model. If you look at my YouTube channel, I used to be a big eBay seller. I used to be a big book selling, thrifter. And I changed that over 3 years ago, because once you get a taste of this world, and again, there's some hurdles you're going to have to jump over and learning curves. It's very hard to go back.
Absolutely. It
So,
is very
yeah,
hard to walk into a thrift store when there's only 2,000 books you could choose from, and the average selling price is $18. I'm just like, ugh.
yeah.
I want the
So,
average selling price to be $68, and I want to find only the best books that are on low offer supply that also are below historical market value.
dude,
That's what I want, right?
my average selling price so far for this year is over
Right.
$120.
I
And,
saw that. It's incredible. That is
and,
really incredible.
what is yours?
On the year, I'd have to take a look.
Like, what about on
Um,
average? Like, what are you typically selling a
Last
book
year was
for?
68. My average purchase
Wow.
price was 17, like 1720, I think.
Yeah,
So
last year, my ASP, I think, was like 50 something. I've really taken your advice, man, and gone higher ticket.
yeah, because it's less work for the same money, right? It's like, would you
Yeah.
rather, like, going back to what we were saying with the thrifting model and with bulk books, it's like you have the option to choose what you want. Would you rather make $100 profit per day selling only 5 books,
Yeah.
reducing the number of books you need to source, or would you rather have to sell 14 books a day and go thrifting, or would you rather do bulk business and sell 29 books per day? It's just like those all accomplish the same end goal, but in my eyes, one is significantly less work,
And
right? I mean, if you think about thrift store, like Steve, like you got to go outside the house, you got to get in the car, you got to turn the car on, you got to go start. You get 10, let's be kind. 5 minute drive to Goodwill one,
yeah,
probably longer than that. Then you got to go to Goodwill two, which is probably 10 minutes away. And then going number three, which is 15 minutes away. You spend an hour just driving. That's
wait in
literally wasted
line.
time. Yeah, waiting in line.
Oh,
Not only that, there's competition. I'm not saying there isn't competition with online book arbitrage. Obviously, there is, but there's also just way more books that are where there's an opportunity. In the thrift store, you're competing with, you know, scanners that are going there throughout the entire day for the same 2,000 books. On Amazon, you get to compete against maybe a couple
dude,
hundred people who are sorting through 100 million
dude,
books. Like,
I'll
it's just,
I'll put it this way: at a thrift store, you're sourcing in a puddle.
yeah,
On Amazon and with E to A and A to A, you're sourcing in the ocean.
yeah, exactly. And hopefully with Bookmine, you're sourcing in a place with a lot of fish. It's a lot of
Yeah,
books.
man. Yep, yep. You got to spear those fish, man. So, yeah, I think I'll end it by saying thank you, Joji. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody, for watching. I put a link to Bookmine in my description on YouTube. So, if anyone's watching wherever, Rake and Profit on YouTube, first link, you'll see the code Steve. You'll see my link. You'll see all the bonuses for anybody who's an active Bookmine user. Even if you didn't go through my affiliate link, I want to support, obviously, Bookmine users. Email my team at support@rakeandprofit.com and include your email that you've used. If you're an active Bookmine user or you just signed up, email us, support@rakeandprofit.com. Share your email. Say, I just signed up for Bookmine. Give me the bonuses, baby.
Give me the
And
bonuses. Give me
my
the
team
bonuses.
will send those over to you. But yeah, thanks so much, Joji. Thank you, everybody,
Thanks, guys.
for watching. And we'll see you in the next one. Much
See you
love.
guys. Have a good one.
Bye.